What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we have a pretty interesting review for you. There's been a lot of talk about different HD systems out there lately, and one of the most talked about alternative DJI Digital HD systems out there is the R2Teck NEXG1, and I do have a unit here. I've been testing it for just about a couple weeks now, and I'm happy to say that I have some things about this system that I really like for the price. First of all, we have to talk about price. Around $340 versus the $700 to $800 you need for the DJI Digital system. This one does have some pros and some cons, and we're going to talk about all those in this video. We're going to talk about the specs on the NEXG1. Primarily, this is a 720p or a 480p system. You can also record to your smartphone with the NEXG1 app. It works on Android and iOS, so that's nice. I was really afraid that originally when I started reading the manual that this wouldn't work on my iPhone, but it's nice that they did an iOS version too. So guys with iPhones, this will work on there as well. Now, one thing right away I have to say that kind of bums me out about this system is that while the hardware is really extremely nice looking, I found myself searching for the micro SD card slot for onboard DVR. Now, versus the DJI has the micro SD card slot on here recording 1080p straight from your module. So there's no breakup or any kind of Minecraft pixelization across the screen. Now, the R2Teck seemed to have a little less breakup actually in my testing, less blurriness when I was flying it. There are some caveats that you have to be aware of when you're using this system, and one of the biggest things is that the way you power the transmitter, this is critical. Do not power it off the ESC on your flight board, on your ESC, 4-in-1 ESCs or your traditional ESCs. You want to power this red cable that plugs into the very back right here, red and black. You want to power that directly to your battery. This transmitter can handle 2 to 6S. So this is a 6S rig setup, and I can fly it on my 4S batteries as well. I have some 4S 5000s that'll give me up to about 20 minutes flight time on this 7-inch. So the unit is a little bigger than the DJI system as far as the length goes, but side to side it will mount on a 30 by 30 stack. You actually have 4 mounting points right here, which is super nice. And these 2 extra large antennas coming off the top here for your maximum reception. So it does have a nice diversity setup. And it's confusing in the manual, and I'm going to show you that here in just a second. The way they have the antennas arranged, they have it a few different ways in here. They have it front to back right here, and then another part of the manual shows it side to side, the correct way to install your antennas, because the camera's up here and they have it side to side here. So I went with the side to side setup because that was what they actually did a graphic for, and kind of interesting there that they have it both ways. And also in here it also says it's recommended to install the antenna in front and behind. Please refer to section 1.2 for the details. In front and behind. Okay, so section 1.2 is here, 1.2, and there's our diagram. And so that's not front and behind if the camera is up here. So yeah, I think there's some confusion here in the manual. So this is the way that I was able to get the best reception like this, having them up high. Now, one other thing about this system is that it has very minimal delay. I did like the frame rate. It seemed to be very fast, and depending on the type of trees or poles or things I was flying around, the breakup was more if I flew behind a thick, super thick Christmas tree, like evergreen type tree. I did receive momentary breakup, and then it comes back as you're coming across the field. But again, it's that same type of breakup that even the DJI system has. It kind of washes over the screen, and then momentarily your video comes back into that full HD view. So you can get a little bit faster processing with this if you want to do 480p, and you can actually get a little bit further range out of it if you want to have your camera view in 480p. Now, normally I would install this underneath this deck, and the reason that I haven't installed up here is just for testing purposes. This would not be my permanent type of setup, so I would raise this deck up just a little bit and accommodate for that in my traditional transmitter spot in my stack. But you will need front and back clearance. There's just another probably 15 millimeters front and back that you need to have clearance for. But there are frames out there that can accommodate this, and it's going to be something that's probably 5-inch or bigger. 5, 6, and 7-inch would probably be the best fit for the R2Teck system. One of the other things that you need to look out for is the data cable. So your HDMI cable comes along in the box. They say that also if you get delay or you get a freeze up on the screen, it's due to either the power cord being soldered to your ESC port, or you have an issue with your data cable. They do make some really nice spray out there that you can get to clean off the tips of your cables, and here it is. It's called Deoxit. It's DN5, and I'll try to find a link for this, but this is great. It dissolves corrosion, and it just improves the contact for any type of electronic type of connections, and it will not cause things to short out. It actually makes a much better data transfer, you know, for audio cables or video cables. And like I mentioned before, I have to say that I think DJI got it right when they did the micro size camera mount here for a camera on the DJI system. That's probably a better fit for most frames out today. I had to actually kind of search around in my shop to find this larger camera frame. There's not a lot of frames still in my shop that accommodate the older style frame, so the micro camera option was probably a better choice from DJI, but again, this system is way cheaper than the DJI system. Now also, I thought that the transmitter itself, some people mentioned that, well, it's kind of bulky, it's large, but I actually like the fact that it is a metal case. It's really well made. You can put some Velcro on the back like this to secure your battery. You are going to run 3 to 4S with this and just plug in anything, I would say larger than a 2200 type of battery for a nice full day worth of flying. You can see it has an XT60 plug right here. Your HDMI port is for your video data cable to go straight through here, and this part attaches to your goggles. Both goggles are compatible. The O3Os over there, the Sky Zone OLED goggles have HD resolution and actually look quite a bit better than the Fat Sharks that are underneath them. So you won't need any antennas on your goggles, because remember, you're plugging this straight into your HDMI port, and you're going to use your mode button to switch over to your HDMI. You will not see any type of video show up on your goggles until you take your phone and you hook it up to the app. Kind of strange. This works through Wi-Fi to transmit the data from here, coming in from your quad, and then pushes it out to the app. It's the NEXG1 app, like I told you before, and you can press record on there, and it says allow to record screen, and you click yes, and after you do that, you're going to be recording the video coming from the quad to the transmitter to your phone. It's a little quirkier than the DJI system, because the nice thing about the DJI system is that when you press record on the goggles, for the $800 price point, that guy will record at the same time on the transmitter from the quad and your goggles feed. So you get kind of the best of both worlds with that type of recording system. And again, I wish this one had onboard DVR, because it would be a little bit nicer. And the Wi-Fi signal coming back to your phone is recording videos on your phone at 720p. And I know you guys have a lot of questions about range. I did range test it, and I was able to get out to around 300 meters, which is a pretty good range for a 200 milliwatt. You can push 200 milliwatt supposedly out way past that. But beyond that, what's really cool about the R2Teck system is that when I got out to the edge of my 300 meters, and that's usually across the first field across the second field that I fly at and out to a tree line. And I've tested tons of drones on my channel out to that because I've measured it before with another drone that had GPS and distance by meters. And typically 200 milliwatt will make it out there. Beyond that, you will have pixels come across the screen sometimes, depending on the direction of the way the antennas are facing. And I found that if I got out there, and the cool thing about this system is that when you get out there and your screen becomes blurry, you can still see the ground, and sometimes the top will stay less blurry. It's kind of an odd thing, but you can still see the trees out in the distance and the horizon. So as long as you keep your altitude up, you're going to be fine. And what's cool about it is that it never completely goes black on you, which is nice. It never went completely out. Only when I had my power routed to my ESC did I get a freeze. And I had to figure that out the hard way, because when the system freezes, very much similar to like the split, the RunCam split, if you use a bad SD card, sometimes they will freeze up on the screen and it will cause an immediate crash. So you want to make sure that you have at least, I would recommend using a 4S battery on this as well for the receiver, and making sure that you use 4 to 6S on this, and again, powering this directly to the VCC terminal for your battery. Now, if we look on this side of the module, you're going to see some LED lights right here, and I'll just zoom in on this real quick for you. When we're at the field, and I'll show you this at the field in the flight test in this video as well, you're going to see these lights all come up to blue. They should be a solid blue once they link up. So you have a working light here, a link light, an HDMI plug for the light, and your mobile connection light right there. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Once you have everything plugged in, everything's on, your phone is good, the app is connected, your mobile light will be displayed there. On the bottom, it also has a spot for hooking up to your tripod, and it looks like it has some venting on the bottom as well, some type of holes in the very bottom. On the back, we have the R2Teck logo with your model number, your serial number, and another QR code that will take you to their website. And what's also nice is they have a QC passed sticker on here. So it was inspected, and these units were tested before they're shipped out. On the front, we have the OSD button. You can make your OSD disappear and reappear. You will have OSD across the bottom of your video feed, which is really nice. So in your goggles, you'll see voltage on your transmitter. You will see the voltage on the module receiver itself, which is also nice. So it gives you telemetry and lets you know what your battery level's at. It also gives you a sort of a signal strength on there as well. So, but again, this system is running on 200 milliwatts, so it's primarily a close range type of setup. If you want to go long range, you're probably going to have to spend the money and go for a DJI or R2Teck's more advanced and more powerful system. There is an 800 milliwatt version of this, but it is around the $750 price point. So you're getting close to the DJI system at that point. And that includes the goggles in the DJI system price. This does not include the goggles. And you will already have to have had the HDOs, or the HD3s will work with this system, and the Sky's own 03Os as well. So any OLED goggles with HD on there will work just fine. But let's go head outside now. You guys have a pretty good overview of the system. I feel like you probably are more familiar with it now. Let's do some field testing, and then we'll come in and we'll talk about my final opinion on this one, and we'll give it a star rating as always. Here we go, guys. Alright guys, now it's time for having some fun with the NEXG1 versus the DJI system. And I have to say that the NEXG1, it is recording right now at 720p at 30 frames per second. The recorded video that you can get from this system is nowhere near as good as the DJI. However, again, it's half the price. And also, I got a comment right away that the camera is not as good. Now, let's talk about the good stuff about this system. Already, it's giving me telemetry. Just having it powered to my quad, it's giving me RSSI because it's transmitting back to the power station. The receiver is getting, you can see the second numbers from the bottom left right there. It's 40, 38, 41, and it's giving me telemetry for my connection to the quad for my video feed, which is very nice. Right out of the box, it's giving me all this telemetry. Next to that, the far left right there, you can see a little T, and that means transmitter. So I have 16.3 volts on the quad, so it's showing me quad telemetry, which is great. Again, the DJI doesn't do that straight out of the box. You have to actually wire it up to your flight controller, or have a flight controller that's compatible with a plug-and-play type of setup, and set it up in Betaflight. So I haven't used Betaflight at all in this video to set up any of this telemetry. I just plugged everything in with the 2 cables that are provided on the transmitter, powered up my receiver, and this is what I'm seeing. And you can also turn on and off this OSD, which is pretty cool, from the receiver. There's a little button on the receiver that says OSD. Now the next one over is channel 3. I'm running 200 milliwatt, and to the far right, those numbers over there, you can see a little tiny R, and that is the receiver. Right now I'm at 12.4 volts on my receiver, so I'm good there. And we have a countdown. We have actually a timer for the flight, which is cool. And you can see on the far right, HQ. That means I'm transmitting in the 720p high quality feed. You can also go for the low quality and bump it down to 480 if you want to get a more real-time view. But again, like, this is the DVR that you guys are looking at, so the screen actually looks better than what you see here, which is always the case. Whenever you record DVR, it's not going to be true to what you actually see on the screen. And the same thing for the DJI feed. So coming up here, I'm going to show you the DJI feed. And look at this right here. This is the first time since you've been watching this flight that I finally get the Minecraft pixels across the screen, and it comes immediately back once I change a little bit of direction with the quad. And I've found that the more I fly HD systems, whenever I see those kind of pixels showing up on the screen, just turn the quad on the yaw axis, and a lot of times it will come almost immediately back. And now I'm just going to do a little bit of a range test. We're going to send it out from the first field out to the second field out here. And that tree line you see right ahead of us right there, that is the 300 meter mark. So we're about 900 feet out, almost there. A pretty good distance from the parking lot right here. And you can see that I can still see just fine. And sometimes when it goes out, the cool thing about it is that you can still see the horizon and the ground. Now we're going to go ahead and switch and go split screen here for the digital FPV feed from DJI on the right, NEXG1 feed on the left. And look how nice that DJI camera is. And this is the difference, folks, between $900 or $800 versus $340. This is what you get. It is what it is. But immediately, I'm happy that the NEXG1 has immediate telemetry on there for my power output, the channel I'm on, my RSSI, my transmitter battery level, and the quad's battery level. And it also has a timer on board, which is really nice. And the way that both of these systems break up, it looks fairly similar. When you lose signal from the DJI feed, it also does that same type of Minecraft pixelization. But, you know, again, I'm able to get 700 milliwatt out of the DJI FPV feed. So the range is much further, and everyone's talking about the NEXG1 only having 200 milliwatt. And this is the type of flying that you're going to be able to do with that. The bad thing about my NEXG1 feed on the left hand side is that it's not totally fair because this was filmed later in the day, so there's a little more of a golden hue versus a lot more blue into the right hand feed right there from DJI. It was about almost mid-afternoon, so it was a better light, but the camera is superior to the NEXG1. And again, I'm getting low with the DJI camera and really getting in there, and they both break up the same way. When you get low to the ground, you'll have breakup, and sometimes when you get super high, you'll have breakup, but usually not right out in front of yourself. Now I want to do a test with the DJI Digital feed. This is the evergreens right here on your right, and I'm just slowly flying around this with the Mega Bee. And notice that when I put it behind both of these trees, and I come behind this one right here, I should be getting some kind of breakup, but I'm running 700 milliwatt right here, and I'm about 150 feet away, bumping into that tree. No breakup whatsoever. If I would have done that with the NEXG1, you would have definitely seen breakup. Right there, it's getting just a little bit fuzzy through these trees, breaking up a little bit, but there's 2 layers of trees between me and the DJI digital feed. So I feel like if the NEXG1 had a higher power output, that it would be a phenomenal value for the price. But again, it is what it is on 200, and for your everyday type of flying situation, if you're not flying medium to long range, the NEXG1 would be just fine on any type of aircraft, fixed wing or quadcopter. But the coolest thing about both of these systems is that you can really get in there, you can slow the Mega B way down, you can bump into things and still keep flying. But you can find gaps like you've never found before with these HD systems. You really can get in there nice and tight and explore. Exploratory type FPV is really fun. Just kind of taking your time and seeing what you can get away with. But the clarity of the DJI is obviously a winner over the NEXG1. However, the NEXG1 is again, probably in a way, it's better that they have OSD on there versus the DJI does not. That's the big thing for me. I would like to have seen that DJI had incorporated instant type of OSD. They have the technology to do it. But that's about it for both of these guys. Let's go ahead and let's give some final thoughts and a rating for the NEXG1. Go back to the studio. Here we go. Alright guys, welcome back into the studio after the flight test. Wasn't it fun kind of A and Bing the DJI system versus some other system out there? I know a lot of you guys are hot to find another system out there that's just going to be a much more cost-effective system versus DJI's, you know, $800 price point. Entry point is pretty high on the DJI system. And I can't say that the R2Teck NEXG1 is better than DJI. I'm not here to say that at all. And I'm here to give you an honest review and kind of overlook at this system. It is a better value for guys that are looking for a cheaper system. Now with that cheaper system, it's not going to perform as good as the awesome DJI Digital Fpv System. They have millions of dollars worth of R&D, so there's no way that this system would be even remotely close to the DJI system. The goggles look fantastic. If you want the perfect HD system out there that blows all the rest of them away, get the DJI HD system. It's great. It's awesome. But for people who don't want to spend that money, there are other options out there, and this is just one of them. NEXG1 is not perfect. I feel like it needs more power transmission coming from the transmitter back to the receiver. I think that the quality of the units actually look pretty good. I was surprised that this was a solid metal, nice, legit feeling receiver. I like that. One of the things that bothers some people is the fact that, oh, you have to use a receiver module and then come out with your HDMI, but that allows you to use your existing goggles. So, you know, that's the thing. With the DJI system, it's proprietary to their goggles only. So the nice thing is that you can come out with this and you can display it on a 40-inch flat screen if you wanted to, and demo it for some folks that are watching you. So that's kind of cool. You can go monitor or any type of different goggles that support an HDMI input. So that's the really kind of huge pro about the R2Teck NEXG1 system versus DJI, where it's going to be stuck to those goggles only. But again, those goggles do look fantastic. But on the flip side of that, the Sky Zone goggles probably looked the best in my testing for the NEXG1 system. It looked fantastic. When everything is in focus, it looks beautiful. And again, I have to warn you about powering this transmitter off of your ESC terminals. Don't do that, because it needs a really high voltage to run this transmitter. Make sure you power it off your battery terminal directly, because it needs that high voltage, and it can handle up to 6S. So you risk the camera freezing up if you solder directly to your ESC terminal. So it needs a more full power to it. And I was afraid I was going to fry it at first, but it does say in the manual that it can handle that voltage. And it does need that extra voltage to work properly. One con about it was I felt like DJI made the right choice by doing the micro camera versus the full-size camera. I have, again, less frames around that can accommodate this full-size camera. It would be nice if R2Teck would release a micro version of this camera that you could just plug into this unit. And one other thing that I really liked about the R2Teck is that it has the 30 by 30 mounting point options on here. So you can see the hole straight through the unit right there. It is 2 layers. It also has a button on here for changing your channels. They say that you can run 2 of these on the same frequency, which is kind of wild. If you want to get a little further range, like I said before, you can go ahead and run a little bit lower and get a little bit further out there, lower 480p versus 720p. So, and again, it's recording to the phone, which would be a con in ways, because I feel like this unit needs a DVR on here, and I don't think that the Fat Shark Bifrost also has an onboard DVR on the transmitter. So that is one thing that I like about the DJI system, because this is a very real-time recording system back to the phone from these Wi-Fi antennas here, but I feel like the onboard DVR is a better solution for recording great videos. And then being able to record in the goggles themselves. Those are both nice options. As far as performance-wise, this one did perform better, but I was also cranking 700 milliwatt full time on this one behind the evergreen trees, hovering behind the trees. It didn't even break up. It held the signal really, really well. Whereas this one, when I flew behind the trees, I did get that momentary breakup. The evergreens are super thick, so I usually do get breakup even on my analog systems behind those evergreen trees. So that's not a huge surprise for me, but I felt like the performance was way better on this one. And again, obviously, because it's pumping 700 versus 200. So is it a true 200? That's the other thing. We would need to put that on a frequency tester and find out, or a power tester, and find out exactly how much power this thing is emitting. So I also like the fact that this one has the optional IPEX connectors on here, so you can switch these antennas out and experiment with putting different antennas on there. You can also do the same thing with the DJI unit. I like on the DJI unit that they use MMCX connectors versus the IPEX connectors, because sometimes they can pop off. But the cool thing about this one is that the IPEX connectors are underneath the unit. So when I'm pressing it down like this type of setup, and I usually run a light zip tie around the top just for my testing, it holds those IPEX connectors in place, and they're not going to come unplugged, even in a crash. But one other con about the R2Teck system could be the length. The length is going to be challenging for a lot of us doing builds. The length is around 70 millimeters from front to back, and the DJI system is around 60 millimeters front to back. Let's just get this up here and scooch it in there. We'll put the wire harness out and everything. So we're looking at 71.4 millimeters front to back and side to side. You guys want that measurement too. It's 36.7 millimeters side to side. And again, that unit is around 50 grams, 50 to 55 grams. So you're adding a little bit more weight. You could fly this on, you could even fly this system on a 3-inch frame if you could find a 3-inch frame that would accommodate it. And it's going to be challenging, but that's the challenge, is finding the right frame for this system. So both of these systems do have a lot of pros and cons, and the DJI system primarily is, the biggest con about that one is the price. A lot of guys that I know at the field I've been talking to, I let them fly this system. They're all impressed with it. Everyone says wow when they first put the goggles on for the DJI system. Seeing that image on the screen is just fantastic. And some of those guys will end up buying the system, but some of them are saying that I'm going to wait till next year when the price go down, when they release a version 2 that's super long range and has more bells and whistles. I might grab the original system, but there are alternatives out there, and it's good to see these other companies doing this. R2Teck and Fat Shark trying to work on their Bifrost system. They've already sent out prototypes, and I won't know whether I'm getting one until I get a notification from them. They might have already sent them all out to everybody else, but I'm still over here working with the systems that I have, and hopefully eventually I will get the Bifrost, and I'll give you my honest opinion on that one versus DJI and the R2Teck NEXG1. So when that time comes, I'll be happy to test it. But I think that the R2Teck did okay. I'm going to give it about probably a 4.3 total star rating out of 5. There are some things that I think could be better. I wish it had more power output. But then again, this is a proximity type of flying system, and some guys are going to ask me, oh, should I put this on would it work okay on a fixed wing? I believe it would work on a fixed wing, but you want to be able to have some GPS return to home on a fixed wing as well, because if you get out there and you have a freeze up or you have some video loss, you want to be able to switch into RTL and come back, and then once you come back, get your transmission going again. So very critical there. You need to have some type of fail-safe setup. Same thing for the quad. Don't go out there further than, like, I'd say 300 meters because you'll start to have breakup. You're likely not to have a freeze, but you will get breakup at super far ranges. But that's going to happen even with the DJI system that I tested. There's breakup at a distance with those as well, past 300 meters. I tested that one on a plane and a quad, and you can go back and watch that review. It's pretty awesome. We put it on the huge Ranger. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching this honest review, and hopefully it was a good overview of the NEXG1, and now you guys have a better understanding of what this system's all about, and a good example of it flying in an open big field versus, and behind some trees, versus some of the Chinese tests that I saw that were just in a little playground or indoors at a race course. If you're going to use this one for racing, it should perform pretty well close up. So guys that are looking for something to put on a race quad, the biggest challenge is space and finding the right space to put this unit in. But other than that, pretty fun to test it out. And thanks again for watching the review, guys. I appreciate it. I'm Justin Davis. Take care, guys. Another HD system in the house. I'll see you on the next one.